Hi, it's Jack, and this is the podcast version of this episode. If you want to read the words as they're being analysed, then if you're on Spotify, you can become a subscriber of this channel or head over to the YouTube channel. And on both platforms, you can also sign up to get exclusive episodes and early access to the regular weekly episodes too. You have asked so many times for me to look at the Chris Watts case again, specifically Nichol, who he was having an affair with. So I have looked at that, and it's got me asking, is this Nichol wanting control, or is she wanting to avoid embarrassment?
You talked to him for a few hours on Sunday.
Did I? Are you asking me, or are you telling me?
I'm asking you.
Oh, I was like, I don't even know. Someday, honestly, so wait a minute. That was Saturday. We're talking about Saturday. We're not talking about Sunday.
What was her relationship with Chris like? Did she know what he planned to do, or was she even in some way involved in what happened? Well, let's look at her words. Is she straightforward and truthful, or is she evasive and controlling? Welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. What I do here is different from anywhere else because I strip away everything apart from the words that are said. Then I use my process of statement investigation to give you the key to seeing possible deception, possibly where the truth is, and the motivations of someone as well. It's a process I use with investigators, with corporate clients, and also with the media to get a deep understanding of what is really being said. So the case we're looking at here is August 2018. Chris Watts killed his wife, Shanann, murdered their children, Bella and Celeste. He had a mistress at the time, Nichol Kessinger, and we're going to look at her speaking to the police 3 days after the killings, the day after Chris Watts confessed, to try and answer, what did she no. Now, before we look at her words, let's talk about stress, because whatever's going on here, whether she's entirely innocent or whether she is a bit complicit, Nichol is going to be feeling stress at this point in time, and that stress is going to come through in her words. But is that stress caused by, well, look, she was having an affair with a married man, that's all going to be outed, and the fact the married man killed his wife and his children, that's a stressful situation to talk about? Or is that stress caused by guilt, of trying to appear innocent and having a story to sell, to appear that, yeah, I knew nothing about what was going on? That's a stressful thing as well. So she's going to demonstrate stress. She's going to demonstrate that there are things she wants to persuade us of. But is that coming from a point of view of knowledge, or is that coming from a point of view of complete innocence? Let's look at Nichol's words as she talks to the police.
So I just want to know how you met him, where you met him, how long you guys were dating, and those kind of things initially.
Okay. I think I met him sometime in June, probably early June. It might have been May. It was just talking at work. It was pretty casual. And he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. And every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me that he was in a relationship. He didn't even mention his kids right away either. And then one day he told me that he had 2 kids. I was like, that's pretty cool. And started telling me about his kids.
That sounded like a sarcastic comment.
No, I thought it was kind of cute. I was like, oh, he's a dad. It was like right around Father's Day too. So whenever that is in June.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm not good with holidays.
He told me he had kids, and then it was Father's Day shortly after
Okay.
that. So that's what I do now. And I was like, I thought it was cute. And then he's telling me about him. He's pretty excited about him. And then he mentioned that he did have a significant other. And then he told me that those 2 were in the process of a separation.
So it's back to first principles, really. I think it's the first real question that she was asked in this interview, and it's obviously one that's dead important about the relationship and how it started. The police guy says, so I just want to know how you met him, where you met him, how long you guys were dating, and those kind of things initially. Lots of questions wrapped up into one question there. So what does she say? She says, okay, I think I met him sometime in June, probably early June. It might have been May. It was just talking at work. Now, first thing there is we have okay. Now, this is a relationship that she was in at the time, and she goes, so that indicates to me she's thinking about the answer she wants to give. The answer is not something that's going to come snappily to her. She's thinking about the answer she wants to give. I already think there's potentially a little bit of image management going on here, where she's choosing her words carefully. That doesn't mean she's being dishonest. She might be choosing truthful words carefully, but the is an indication that she is choosing her words carefully. And then look at all the vagueness in this. I think I met him sometime in July. Sometime in June. Probably early June. It might have been May. So we've got loads of vagueness there. I think, sometime, probably, might have been. What's going on there? Is she trying to get across a casualness of this relationship? It wasn't that important. I don't really remember when it began. Is she just leaving herself open so that if they found out that the relationship started in May, she hasn't tied herself to June? If they find out it was June, she hasn't tied herself to May. It could be either of those things. However, I will lean towards the casualness because of the next thing she says. It was just talking at work. That word just is in there. Regular people will know that just is a word that gets me interested every time someone says it. And here I think she's trying to downplay the seriousness of the relationship and the phase where they were getting together. It was just talking at work. Well, look, we probably all talk to people at work all the time. We don't end up in a relationship with them, especially not a relationship with someone who's married just because we were talking at work. So that word just here, I think, is minimizing the interactions that were going on between them. She doesn't want to say we were flirting, we hit it off straight away, there was an amazing chemistry or anything like that. She's telling us it's just talking at work. So that's why I think there's some casualness that she wants to display here about the relationship. It weren't that serious, you know, I wasn't really involved with him. He was just someone that I was seeing, which is why I think I met him sometime in June, probably early June. It might have been May. It was just talking at work. And then she says it was pretty casual. So we have her really saying, look, if I haven't been casual enough already with Justin, might have been then, it probably was then. We have her saying explicitly, it was pretty casual. So she wants to get across, whether it's truthful or not, how casual this relationship was, how unserious this relationship was, although the word pretty belies her there. It was pretty casual. Not casual, it just wasn't casual, it was pretty casual, which leaves the door open for lots of non-casual behaviour in this relationship. If she just said it was casual, that would be straightforward. But no, she has to qualify it by saying it was pretty casual. She does another thinking again of what it is she wants to say. So this is image management here. Now, that does not mean she's guilty of involvement in this crime at all. It just means she's very sensitive about how this relationship is seen. And he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. Now, that's very interesting because there was lots in the question. I want to know how you met him, where you met him, how long you guys were dating, those kind of things initially. She wasn't asked, did you know he was married? Were you aware he was married? But she wants to get that out. Again, obviously very important for her. And you can imagine, again, innocent or guilty, she was having an affair with someone. She was having an affair with a married guy. And therefore, she's going to be very sensitive to that. You know, there's going to be questions asked. There's going to be judgments made on her as well, for sure, when this story comes out. So she, I think, wants to get ahead of this and say, I didn't know he was married. Only she doesn't say that. She doesn't say, I didn't know he was married. She says he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. She doesn't say explicitly that she did not know that Chris Watts was married. Interesting. She just states the symbolism. He didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. And every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me that he was in a relationship. That's interesting. It's like maybe better off saying, he hid from me the fact he was married. She doesn't say that. He lied to me and said he was single. None of that is there. It's every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me he was in a relationship. Now, we've heard more. We hear that he did say that he was in a relationship. So therefore, the phrase, literally as it stands, every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me he was in a relationship, is a lie. It's not true, because she goes on to say that one time when she talked to him, he did say he was in a relationship. So we've got deception going on here. Deception around the image of this relationship. He didn't even mention his kids right away either. Now, that word right away gets me interested because that suggests that he did mention his kids. Now, we know that there, but that is what's coming out in her language. He didn't even mention his kids right away either. She continues, so thinking about what she's going to say again. And then one day he told me that he had 2 kids. I was like, that's pretty cool. And so he told me about his kids. Now, we've got the and then we've got an and then. And then is a jump in time when someone talks. It means that they are skipping over some details, skipping over some events. Two reasons we could do that. One is for brevity. One is if we're telling a story that covers a long period of time, we don't want to talk about every interaction and every day in between and every event. So we want to jump over to the pertinent bit time we're going to talk about. Other times it can be used in deception to skip over something that we don't want to mention. So I had a cup of coffee and then went home, but I haven't mentioned the time that I robbed the bank in between, or assaulted someone in between there, or defrauded someone. So I had a cup of coffee and then I went home. Well, and then is that jump in time which can hide anything. So is there something being hidden here in that and then? Potentially. What was the instigator for him saying that he had 2 kids? Now, the ordering is very interesting here. She brought in the thought of the wife and kids, but the thing that she mentions that Chris mentioned first is the kids. And when you think about it, again, that's the most innocent is the best way I can think of describing it. The most innocent way you could tell this story is that she was seeing a guy, she thought he was single, then he mentions he has kids. Well, lots of people who have kids who are single. So is that what's going on here, why she mentioned the kids first? She doesn't answer the question in full, but the question is quite an involved one. So maybe it's understandable that she doesn't deal with every single part of the question. She doesn't say how long they were dating or anything like that. But it's interesting that she brought in and covered off the thought of the wife and kids before the detective or the police guy did. The police guy says to her about her saying it was pretty cool that he had kids. That sounded like a sarcastic comment. She says, no, I thought it was kind of cute. I was like, oh, he's a dad. It was right around Father's Day too. So whenever that is in June. The police guy says, I'm not good with holidays. And then Nichol says, he told me he had kids. And then it was Father's Day shortly after that. So that's what I do know. And I was like, I thought it was cute. So she's mentioned cuteness around this first as well. And again, there's that sort of sweet element. If you met a single dad with kids, that is much less judgment, or you're much less able to be judged on that than meeting a married guy with kids. So that's what I do know, is what she tells us. She wasn't asked what she knows at all. So why is she telling us that's what I do know? Again, is she holding some things back? I think she is. She's trying to make this relationship sound a little bit more casual than it was. So when she says, that's what I do know, and I've seen Nichol do this quite a lot when she talks, so that's what I do know. She's putting a kind of box around it. She's saying, here's everything I do know. Move on. Next question. I've told you everything inside this box. Why would she feel the need to do that? Why is this to avoid further questioning, to avoid giving more information? She's going, this is what I know. That's all I have. Move on. Next question. And I was like, I thought it was cute. And then he's telling me about them. He's pretty excited about them. And then he mentioned that he did have a significant other. And he told me that those two were in the process of separation. So what do we have in that part? Well, we've got an and then again. So in her telling of this story, he mentioned the kids first, and then the significant other. I find that interesting because if you're forming a relationship with someone and they say they have kids, I think a very natural follow-up question is, what about the other parent of that kids? What about the mother? Is the mother still on the scene? Or what happens between you and the mother? Is the mother still around? All those sort of questions. Maybe that's what the and then hides. Maybe what she's doing is switching the order of this around and saying that the kids came first, because that sounds innocent and joyful and playful. Oh, and by the way, there was a significant other as well. And then he mentioned that he did have a significant other, which again is a very casual thing. I mentioned I was going on vacation next week, or I mentioned I had a really nice cup of coffee before I robbed the bank. It's a very casual thing. Again, so think about that. How does that go? So talking away one day and he goes, oh, by the way, I've got a significant other. That would be mentioning you've got a significant other. When you're forming a relationship, that has got to be quite a serious conversation. That's got to be something that is not just mentioned, but something that is dropped up. It's not a casual mention. Oh, by the way, got a significant other. It's something a little bit more formal than a mention. So she's downplaying what went on there, I believe. That he did have a significant other. Well, there's more downplaying. A significant other sounds like a little bit less worse than this guy that I was seeing was married, had a wife. It's a significant other. So she's downplaying Shanann there. And he told me that those two were in the process of a separation. I'm not saying this is a lie because of what's there, but you'll notice there, it's not, he said we were separated. It's not that we were living apart and going to get a divorce or anything like that. It was in the process of a separation, which is an indication that she knew that there was still very much a relationship going on there between Chris and Shanann. So in that very first part there, she is very sensitive to the fact that Chris Watts was married and had kids. She wants to get ahead of that and bring it out, but also make it sound kind of innocent. Oh, there was kids and they were dead cute. Oh, by the way, he mentioned he had a significant other. There's so much downplaying and casualness. It was just talking. And he mentioned this insignificant other. So there's a real downplaying of the relationship that Chris had with Shanann and his kids, and also a downplaying of the relationship that Nichol had with Chris. It was just talking. It was pretty casual, and the order there for me is pretty strange as well. So mentioning the kids first, and then the wife second. Look, I've had so many requests to look at Nichol, so I hope this is floating your boat. There is so much to this police interview. I think it's about 3.5 hours long, so we've only got time in this episode to look at a small part of it. Do let me know if you want more, because there is so much more from Nichol Kessinger. Let me know in the comments. I'll also be able to see the stats, the number of likes this episode gets, and the number of people that view the content or listen to the content. So if it gets enough interest, then we will absolutely do more Nichol Kessinger. In this episode, though, we still have a lot more Nichol to go. Let's listen to some more of her.
Did he mention the children's name or his significant other's name?
I didn't know his significant other's name for a while. And then I think he told me his kids' names pretty quick, but to be honest with you, on an exact date of when that happened, I don't know.
So in May and June, first of all, where do you work?
I work at Anadarko Petroleum Corporation. I'm contracted to Anadarko Petroleum Corporation.
Okay, and you work out of an office setting where?
In Platteville, Colorado.
Okay. And Chris also works out of that location, per se?
Yes. He's in the field, but he comes into the office with his team.
So you work, what is your job responsibility?
I do health, safety, and environment.
Okay. So you work in the office and you take care of health safety for Anadarko is an oil and gas company, right?
Yes.
So you're doing health safety in the office and Chris works in the field?
Yes.
As what kind of job does he do?
He's an operator, so I don't know like all of his daily duties, but he's a field operator, so he works with like the oil wells.
So he goes out and does work on those, whatever
Yes.
That work might be. But he comes into the office frequent.
In the mornings, his team meets in the mornings. They're not all in there every day. Some days some of them are in there, some days other ones are in there, but in the mornings, typically from like 6:15 to probably 7, somewhere around there.
And is that where you met Chris?
Yes.
Okay. So can you just take us through kind of a little bit of the early part of how he courted you or you courted him? I don't know which one happened. How you guys got to know each other?
I guess we just started talking. He actually, so part of my job is to manage the gas monitors that we have. So Anadarko requires all of their field personnel to carry like gas monitor sensors for toxic gases, and it's my job to control the inventory, any issues, anything like that. And we were having some pretty serious like equipment issues, and we had numerous amounts of people coming in my office one day, and he happened to be one of them.
Right. So much in there. You may have noticed some common themes already coming through when Nichol talks. She is asked, did he mention the children's names or significant others' names? She says, I didn't know his significant other's name for a while. And then I think he told me his kid names pretty quick. But to be honest with you, on an exact date of when that happened, I don't know. You've probably seen some of those themes there. Again, a bit of a casualness with significant other. Now, it's very interesting. Often I excuse people using terms because it's in the question they were asked. So here, she is asked about significant other. So that reflects her answer. She's asked about significant other. She answers about significant other. But who mentioned significant other first? Nichol. So she's using her own, happily using her own casual language there. Now, it's a yes-no question. Did he mention the children's names or the significant others' names? Yeah, he did. No, he didn't. But she says, I didn't know the names for a while. And then he told me the names that are there. So she's again, it's this, I didn't know that for a while, and I want to lead with I didn't know, so that I can show the casualness of this relationship, the fact it was all no big deal. I didn't know his significant other's names for a while. And then, so we have a jump in time again, but that could be for brevity, or that could be to bring us up to speed with the time that the event happened. I think he told me the children's names pretty quick, but to be honest with you, on an exact date of when it happened, I don't know. You will see right here, she only answers about knowing the children's names. I didn't know his significant other's name for a while. She doesn't say what for a while is. I mean, what does that mean? For 20 minutes during an hour chat, or for 3 weeks during an 8-week dating period? She doesn't say what that is. It's just, I didn't know it for a while. And then I think he told me about the children's names pretty quick. So again, we've got this picture that she's painting that any conversation about Chrissy's family was children first. It was focused on the children, and that sounds a lot more virtuous than focusing on the person he was married to at the time. She then says, but to be honest with you, on an exact date of when that happened, I don't know. When someone tells you they are being honest, pay attention. Why are they flagging up that they are being honest at that time? Why do they feel the need to say, look, this is honesty here? Well, there's two reasons why that could happen. It could be that this is actual honesty, and everything else that they haven't flagged up as honest is a bit dubious. Or it could be that they just feel the need to flag up this is honest because what's coming next is a lie. But she says, to be honest with you, on the exact date of when that happened, I don't know. Now, I kind of believe that because she's going to tie that down, or she's trying to tie it down to an exact date. We don't often know the exact date things happened. Yeah, sure, we know birthdays, big life events or something like that. We know the exact date of them. But, when did you last fill your car up? Date? You might go, it was Tuesday, it was a month ago, whatever it is, but you don't know the exact date. But why is she answering about a date that it happened? Because she wasn't asked about a date. She was asked, did he mention the children's name or his significant other's name? And she wants to give an answer about an exact date. What is going on there? I think there's two possibilities here. Number one, as we go through this, play along yourself. As you hear Nichol talk, she talks about dates a lot. She wants to tie things down to dates when things happened for some reason. We will see her do that. So maybe it's just a characteristic she has, or maybe she's got a timeline that she wants to tell and make sure that everyone knows around this relationship. But she wasn't asked about a date. She has introduced that concept around the date. Also, is it just the fact that, especially around the significant others, knowing the name, I think she knew that pretty quick because of the vagueness and how she talks about it, how she tries to say it wasn't for a while, but in her language, it's wide open that it could have been 20 minutes after she first started talking to Chris. So that's why I think she's going, I don't know an exact date, so don't try and pin me down to an exact date because it's quite embarrassing, actually. And also, you'll notice, I'm not saying this is devious or deceptive or anything like that, but she does not use the names of those people. She doesn't mention Bella, Celeste, Shanann at all when we're talking about names. Maybe she could have said, I didn't know Shanann's name for a while, and then he told me Bella and Celeste's names. She doesn't say that, which creates this feeling of distance there, that nothing is too close. Now, we then get into the part where they're talking about work. Won't go through all of it because it's very functional and process driven. What I do want you to notice is what Nichol sounds like when she's telling the truth, when she's not in storytelling mode. So some of the questions are factual questions, things that she would have. Number one, no reason to lie about. And number two, if she did lie, these are things that could be caught out as lies very quickly, like where do you work? So where do you work? She says, I work at Andarko Petroleum Corporation. I'm contracted to Andarko Petroleum Corporation. So you can see there, it's a perfect answer for me in terms of truthfulness. Where do you work? I work at. It's very straightforward. It deals directly with the questions, and she says where she works. And then she realizes that's not 100% true. I do work there, but I'm a contractor. So she corrects that. But again, corrects it in a very straightforward way. I'm contracted to Anadarko Petroleum Corporation. Where is that? Flatville, Colorado. Again, it's a very simple answer. And Chris works out of that location per se. Yes, he's in the field, but he comes in to work with his team. So this is all very straightforward. She's asked what her job is, and she says, she stumbles over it, but she does say, Anadarko is an oil and gas company, right? Yes, it's a one-word answer. These are all factual questions that could really easily be disproved if she was lying, and she would have no reason to lie about these. Crisp, short, truthful answers. And Chris works in the field. Yes. And what kind of job does he do? He's an operator. So I don't know. I believe that she doesn't know the exact job that he does, because I don't know is a very truthful phrase in general. Truthful people, or when people are being truthful, they don't mind saying, I don't know. So I don't know all of his daily duties, but he's a field operator. So he works with like the oil wells. And then we start to get away from that crisp answering in short, concise, factual answers. He comes into the office frequent. In the mornings, his team meets in the mornings. They're not in there every day. So you can hear me stutter as I read it, because it doesn't flow as much as the other ones did. In the mornings, his team meets in the mornings. They're not all in there every day. You'll notice that she is asked, he comes into the office frequent, and she doesn't talk about what he does. She talks about his team. In the mornings, his team meets in the mornings. They're not in there every day. So instead of talking about what Chris does, she moves to what his team does. Why is that? Is it because Chris was in the office a little bit more, maybe hanging around her, making excuses to see her, making excuses to talk to her at work, but she doesn't want to say that, so she just talks about what the team do, or is it just a distancing thing? So, yeah, he's in there every day, but not him specifically. His whole team are in there. But again, we've just got her moving into storytelling mode. So that continues. Some days, some of them are in there. Some days, other ones are there. But in the mornings, typically from like 6:15 to probably 7, somewhere around then. So again, she's not talking about Chris specifically. She's talking about this team. Some days, some of them are in there. Some days, other ones are in there. And again, we've got this sort of casualness. So some days Chris is around, some days Chris isn't around. You know, it's not that big a deal. But then she knows the exact time that Chris and his team are in there, 6:15 to 7, somewhere around then. She's asked, and this is where you met Chris. Yes, again, really straightforward, crisp, short answer. So when she's giving these long answers, we can tell she's a bit more in storytelling, maybe persuasive, maybe deceptive mode. She's asked, so can you take us through the early part of how he courted you or you courted him? I don't know which one happened. I love the word courted. It's very quaint and old-fashioned. How you guys got to know each other. And here it's not a very short, crisp answer. It's an so a signal that she is choosing her words carefully. I guess we just started talking. So we have this concept of them just talking. Again, that word just, always dig into it. Just started talking. And it's, I guess, Nichol, you were in a relationship with this guy. You were in quite a intense relationship, serious relationship with this guy. I guess we just started talking. You guessing how the relationship started? I think you know there. But again, we've got this casualness. I guess we just started talking. And then she says, he actually, and then she goes into this. So part of my job is to manage the gas monitors. I want to know what she was going to say. He actually, what? We don't know. I can't guess. But she was going to tell us something specific about Chris. And you'll notice that when she was asked a specific question about Chris at work, she talked about his team. And what she does here is pull right out of that he actually thought. She doesn't tell us what he actually did, and talks about her job with the gas monitors and the fact that all the personnel in the field had to have gas monitors. So again, she's gone to this team feeling and taken it all away from Chris. And we had numerous amounts of people coming in my office one day, and he happened to be one of them, just happened to be one of them. So again, it's very much like that mentioned. She just really wants to get across to the police, to us, that this relationship was quite casual. It just happened. And it was just talking. Well, that's not how relationships start. There must be more to it. Talking must have moved on to something else at one point, and she's not going there at all. She's hiding things there from us. So in that part there, real distancing from the wife and kids, and a kind of deception around when she found out their names. Again, I think deception about when she found out that Chris was married. We have so much stress on the casualness of the relationship and the casualness of the meeting, and the fact that, you know, lots of people were around there. It was all very normal. It was all very casual. She's certainly hiding something around here, and you can see her storytelling when she moves from crisp, clear, direct answers to those factual questions, and when she's a lot more verbose and she's using a lot more hedging words like I guess, and downplaying words like happened, and so on. Let's get some more from Nichol talking to the police.
And we were having some pretty serious equipment issues, and we had numerous amounts of people coming in my office one day, and he happened to be one of them. And I'd seen him before. They meet in the lunchroom, and that's where I go put my lunch in the fridge. So I'd seen him, but I didn't ever talk to him. So that day we just started talking, and then every time I saw him in the hallway after that, and it was always hit or miss. It wasn't an everyday thing. It was just when I saw him, we just started talking, and we just kind of had a lot in common and just hit it off. So we'd always have pretty good conversations, and then I don't know. One day he told me that he had kids and started talking about his kids, and then mentioned, yes, that I have a wife, but we're getting separated. I said, okay. And
When do you think that was?
When he said all that?
So specifically when he told you he was getting separated from his wife, was that within the first couple of weeks that you knew him, or was that later on? You said you met him around May or June.
Yeah, it was still in June.
Okay.
It would have been before Father's Day.
So, interesting one here, because do you remember in the last clip we watched, how did you get to know each other? And she said, I guess we just started talking. That changes a little bit in the answer that we get there. She says, I'd seen him before, they meet in the lunchroom. So again, it's the team was all there. There was nothing special about Chris. I'm wondering if one of them searched the other person out for some reason. And that's why she's gone to the team were all there. She wants to avoid talking about this one-on-one thing. That's where I go to put my lunch in the fridge. Thanks for the update, Nichol. Nothing more important than knowing where your lunch was. So I'd seen him, but I didn't ever talk to him. So that day we just started talking. So now she is saying that they did start talking. So it was, I guess we started talking. Then she's a lot more direct. We started talking. Let's dive through this. I'd seen him, but I didn't ever talk to him. So was she aware of him? Did she search him out? And this could be, again, she just thought, hey, there's a attractive guy, or there's someone I'd like to do something with, or whatever, and sort of searched him out, started flirting with him or something like that. Again, if she didn't know he was married, nothing wrong in that. Maybe she should have checked first. But anyway, that day we just started talking. Now that day, does that refer to the equipment monitoring? She's not very specific about that. She has mentioned this equipment issues, and lots of people. One day there were lots of people in her office. Is that the day she's talking about, or is she being more specific about that day, the day that she hooked up with Chris? It's quite memorable in her. We have lots of justs in this answer. We just started talking. Hey, it's so casual. It's just talking. Always pay attention to the word just. And then every time I saw him in the hallway after that, and so every time I saw him in the hallway after that, again, it's just so casual, but actually every time belies the fact, that it wasn't that casual, because it was every time I saw him in the hallway after that. There wasn't a time where she was so busy or he was so busy that they just had to walk past each other and go, hi. It says that there was a bit of an intensity going on here. And then she says it was always hit and miss. It wasn't everyday thing. It was just when I saw him that tends to be what a relationship is, Nicole. It's just when you see that person, you can't form a relationship when you're not seeing that person. But again, it's this casualness that she wants to get across. It was always hit and miss. It wasn't an everyday thing. It was just when I saw him and we just started talking. She keeps saying they started talking. You can't start talking numerous times. Well, you can have many conversations, but it's like, we just started talking, it was like a very casual thing here. And we just kind of had a lot in common and just hit it off. Using the word just to really minimize things down here. We just kind of had a lot in common. We just hit it off. I think this is all to minimize this and make it sound casual. Why would you want to make it sound casual? Well, it's probably in everyone's interests if the relationship you were having with a multiple murderer was casual and very distant from it. But it also might be hiding the fact that this was quite an intense relationship that they were having. So we'd always have, pretty good conversations. And then, I don't know, one day he told me he had kids and started talking about his kids and then mentioned, yes, that I have a wife, but we're getting separated. So, okay. So we always have pretty good conversations, that casualness again. And then, I don't know, one day he told me that he had kids. So a little bit of nervousness there around the kids. We've got the stress on the he. Do I really want to say this out loud? Because this is quite sensitive. It looks bad on me if I'm dating a guy with kids and a wife. He told me he had kids and started talking about his kids and then mentioned, not informed me, told me, but mentioned, yes, I have a wife. Interesting, mentioned, yes, that I have a wife. Well, you would say, yes, I have a wife. If you're asked, are you married? Yes, I have a wife. If you're not asked if you're married, if you're just mentioning it casually, it wouldn't be, yes, I have a wife. It would be, I have a wife. But we're getting separated. So, okay. Now, what do we have here? We have there, again, we're getting separated. So, real consciousness that this was an ongoing relationship. We're getting separated. Not we are separated, not we're getting a divorce, but we're getting separated. So that says you knew that they were together in some form. The guy might have told you, oh, we're getting separated, but you knew there was a relationship going on there. Again, we have the ordering there, which is that one day he told me he had kids and then mentioned the wife. She really wants to get across to us that she found out about the kids first and the wife last. Don't think too bad of me. I knew about the kids and that's all cute. Oh, and then, the wife just happened to be told. Does that stand up with the previous statements that she told? One day he just told me that he had kids. It makes it all sound like it comes out of the blue. She's asked, when do you think that was? And she says, when he said all that? ? So she's asking a question to a question. Very often that signals that the answer is sensitive and that the person asking the question is buying themselves some more thinking time, because she's just told us what happened, that she was told about the wife and kids. And he says, when do you think that was? Which is pretty obvious what he's asking about. When do you think it was that you said that you were told he had a wife and kids? But she, I think, buys herself some thinking time here, possibly to construct the answer. So she asks a question to a question. My God, did she get thinking time? Because detective gives a long response. Specifically, when he told you that he was getting separated from his wife, was that within the first couple of weeks that you knew him, or was that later on? You said you met around May or June. And she says, yeah, it was still in June. So specifically when he told you he was getting separated from his wife, she's tied down specifically to 30 days, a very wide time frame. If they met in May, and it was May, possibly June, so let's think that will be the end of May, then June could be just towards the very beginning of the relationship, or it could be maybe 6 weeks into the relationship. It's a big difference, but she wants to leave it very wide. And yeah, it was in June. Then she narrows it down a little bit. It would have been in before Father's Day. So, but it's still a wide open window there. So what do we have in that part there? Well, look, earlier they were dating when he told her. He said, it'd been going on for a while. Then eventually he said they were married and kids. Now they were just talking. She was asked about dating and she didn't say we weren't dating, we were just talking, but she really wants to get across that this relationship that Nicole had with Chris Watts, nothing more went on than they were just talking. And again, the timeline with her, she is keeping, I believe, deliberately vague. Coming up, Nichol describes the date she had with Chris 24 hours before the murders. It's a very, very interesting bit of speech from Nichol. Do you ever feel like you're not being told the full story? I feel it here with Nichol around this whole relationship thing. And this is happening to us all the time. People are not being 100% fully honest with us. But I'm here to give you the key to seeing deeper, because this is about hearing the world with new ears. And I'm on a mission to share this with as many people as possible. So if you want to unlock the secret, then do subscribe to the channel or follow and join the movement and dive into the archives, because there's a treasure trove of cases waiting to be explored, including a look at Chris Watts himself in the archives. And do you know someone who needs this, someone who deserves to hear the truth? Then hit the like button. Share this, recommend it, pass it on, because every single click, every like, every share fuels the fire. It allows me to dig deeper and analyse further and bring this life-changing skill to more people. I had a message this week from someone who said, the things I've learned through all the analyses I've heard from you, after taking notes, hearing you repeat key tells, etc., it really came in handy yesterday during a serious situation I was in. I don't believe I would have detected the deceptions if it weren't for your teachings. So thank you. I'm very grateful that you share this important skill. That is the sort of thing you could be giving to someone else, which is a great thing to give to someone, by clicking the like button, by sharing this and recommending this to other people. So do please pass this on. Right, let's go back to Nichol now. And she's just handed her phone over to the police and they ask her, well, look, is there anything else we should know about?
Okay. Is there anything else you know of that could help us with this that is not on this sheet?
As far as like data,
That's on your phone?
no. I mean, everything we did was like text and talk, pretty much. I mean, and like I said, any pictures that I had, like even if you were to restore all my regular photos, there's so many pictures in there and you wouldn't even know which ones were for him and which ones weren't. But any picture that I wanted to send to him, I sent via text. So if you guys go through the text and the attachments, you will have everything that wasn't said verbally and was done via text. But I think that's it. Like I don't have anything else. As far as like no Facebook, no Instagram, no Twitter, no LinkedIn, like none of it. So there was never any of that kind of correspondence. So I think that should probably cover everything you guys will need.
Is there any particular messages that would help me so I don't have to look at? Because whatever's on your phone, I don't know how long we're going to get back to, but let's say is there a particular date or time or message that stands out to you that would be relative to, specifically to the investigation into this case, that might assist me in understanding why something like this could have occurred?
I'm still in shock that this whole thing happened.
I can imagine.
That's why I gave him the benefit of the doubt for the first day, because I was just like, no way. Like, I didn't even think about that. I mean, murder was not on the top of my mind when somebody doesn't come home for an evening, especially if they just, like, had some sort of, like, heated conversation. It's like, okay, you guys are separating, you have a heated conversation, you leave for a night. Like, I didn't even think this guy killed his wife. I mean, that like, murder is on something on the top of my mind when I call one of my friends for 3 or 4 hours and she doesn't answer the phone. Like, that doesn't even process to me as like a real thing that is a possibility at that point. And so that's why I gave it a day, and then the second day I was talking to him, he was just like a hot mess, I could tell. And then with like the way he was talking to me, and then that's kind of when I cut him off and I stopped talking to him. And then...
So remember what you just said, and we're going to get to that, because that's probably a very important conversation.
So if you want to know days, I would probably honestly just start at like Sunday and work your way forward. I mean, all the rest of that stuff, it's just like the small talk of like, hey, this, you know? I mean...
Wow, what have you got there? I have a feeling you may have spotted some things listening to Nichol answer that question. She's asked, is there anything else you know that could help us with that's not on the sheet? And she asks with a question. She answers with a question to a question as far as like data. So I think what again she's doing there is buying thinking time. Makes me believe potentially there is things there that she doesn't want to be seen. She's told that's on your phone. She says, no, I mean, everything we did was like text and talk pretty much. Well, pretty much disqualifies everything we did was text and talk pretty much. There's something else there, because otherwise you would not put pretty much in there. So there is some other form of communication has gone on, because what she says is not everything we did was text and talk, is pretty much. So there's something else going on there. And then she says, I mean, and like I said, any pictures that I had, like even if they were to restore all my regular photos, there's so many pictures in there, you wouldn't know, you wouldn't even know which ones were for him and which ones weren't. So once again, I get the impression that Nichol is trying to narrow down what the police are going to look at and discover on her phone. Again, look, if you're an adult, then just have a think about what, especially at the beginning of a relationship, what kind of pictures are sent there to someone. Yeah, I'm so naive. The first time I did this, I thought of pictures of nature and great things that we spotted, and here's the sun in the sky or the moon in the sky. It's probably a little bit more that went on around pictures. And was she seeing other people? I get the impression she might have been seeing other people at the time, because she's saying you wouldn't know which pictures were for him and which ones weren't. Was she seeing other people? So is she being helpful here and saying, this is straightforward, this is all I've got here, or is she being evasive? I think she's being slightly evasive here and trying to tie them down to one avenue to look at. Any picture that I wanted to send to him, I sent via text. So if you guys go through the text and the attachments, you will have everything that wasn't said verbally and was done via text. But I think that's it. So again, we've got her narrowing down their focus. Just look at the text. Just look at the photos that I've sent to him on text. Don't go looking through my other photos. Just look at the photos that are in my sent text messages. And she says, but I think that's it. So that goes again with the we just text and talked pretty much, and then I think that's it, which leaves the room open for, in her own words, much more to be possible and to be present. I think that is it. So she's trying to narrow down what they look at. I think a lot more went on. It could be that she was seeing other people at the same time as she was seeing Chris. I don't know. Very sensitive to the photos, as I've explained. And then she tells us, and she's very interesting, she tells us what she doesn't have. I don't have anything else, as like no Facebook, no Instagram, no Twitter, no LinkedIn, like none of it. So there never was any of that type of correspondence. Again, what's going on there? Is she trying to just say, only look at the text, because I don't have anything else? She's telling us what she doesn't have, which is kind of not helpful. Don't go looking for these things because I don't have them. Is it don't go looking for anything else? It feels to me like she only wants the police to look at the text conversations between herself and Chris. Don't go looking through my photos. You won't understand them. Don't go looking for social media. I don't have them. And then again, she finishes all that off with vagueness. She tries to box it off for the detectives again, like I've said. I think that should probably cover everything you guys will need. But it's, I think, so it's not 100% certainty. That should probably cover everything you guys will need. So again, very vague there, which makes me think there are more communications on that phone that she doesn't really want to be found. She wants to direct them to the text messages. Text messages, all simple, all clean. Go and look at them. But look, it's not worth your while looking at anything else. I'm being helpful here. Long question from the verbose police guy. Is there any particular messages that would help me so I don't have to look at, because whatever's on your phone, I don't know how long we're going to get back to, but let's say is there a particular date or time or message that stands out to you that would be relative to, specifically to the investigation into this case, that might assist me in understanding why something like this could have occurred? Is there anything else on my phone that could assist me to work out why he murdered his kids? But whatever, she's asked, is there anything on your phone or anything further on your phone, anything particular on your phone that will help me understand why this happens? And Nichol does not answer this question. She talks about herself, not her phone. I'm still in shock that this whole thing happened. That's why I gave him the benefit of the doubt for the first day, because I was just like, no way, like I didn't even think about that. So I do think there is something on her phone that she doesn't want people to see, that she's maybe going to have to explain away. But look at that answer. I'm still in shock that this whole thing happened. Now, this whole thing happened is really downplaying the severity of what happened. I'm not still in shock that he murdered his wife and kids. It's this whole thing happened. However, actually, despite me thinking there's something on her phone that she doesn't want these guys to look at, she does start talking about her thought process, what was in her head. I gave him the benefit of the doubt for the first day because I was just like, no way, like I didn't even think about that. She's letting us in on her thought process, something that truthful people are more likely to do than deceptive people. Letting you in on the thought process of a truthful person. If you're being truthful, you don't mind sharing your thoughts. You don't mind letting people know what's going on inside your head. If you're being deceptive, what is going on inside your head is closed off. You do not want anyone knowing what's going on inside your head when you're being deceptive. So you avoid the danger of trying to pretend what was going on inside your head by not talking about what was going on inside your head. In general, I'm not saying whenever someone shares their thinking with you, it must be truthful, but she is sharing her thinking there. And then she says, I mean, murder was not top of my mind when somebody doesn't come home for an evening. I've got some reassuring things there. She's talking about murder now. Remember, it was this whole thing happened before, which I said was downplaying. Well, now she's talking about murder. She's not taking anything away. She's not downplaying the severity of the crime or the incident that has happened at all. She is calling it murder. So I feel more reassured by that that she is not hiding away from it. And we've seen her hiding away, and we've seen her downplaying a whole load of things. We've seen she can do that in her language, but here she calls it murder. Not top of my mind when somebody doesn't come home for an evening. Notice she doesn't specifically say when Shanann didn't come home for the evening or when Chris Watt's wife didn't come home for the evening. It's just somebody. It's a much more general, especially when they've had some sort of like heated conversation. So again, she is talking about what is going on. She's not downplaying there. A heated conversation, argument, I guess, but she's not shying away from the fact there was a confrontation. And also, that belies there the fact that she is talking about what she's been told, the heated conversation that Chris told her he had with Shanann, and then Shanann never came back. She's talking about it there like she believes it, like she believed that happened. It's like, okay, you guys are separating, you have a heated conversation, you leave for a night. Like, I didn't even think this guy killed his wife. Again, I'm reassured here around this. She talks about this guy. That is not the phrase you use to describe your boyfriend that you love very dearly, or the guy you were seeing on the side that you had a real soft spot. You wouldn't call them this guy, you call him or Chris. Or my boyfriend. Those are the sort of pronouns and naming conventions you would use for someone you are close with. This guy is used to refer to someone that you have no time for, disdain for as well. And again, this guy killed his wife. We have seen so much downplaying from Nichol in terms of the things she's talking about, but this guy killed his wife is not downplaying what happened at all. She uses murder again. I mean, like that. Murder isn't something on the top of my mind when I call one of my friends for 3 or 4 hours. And that's why I gave it a day. And then the second day I was talking to him, he was just like a hot mess, I could tell. So again, she's giving us her thought processes there. I gave it a day, but he was a hot mess, I could tell. So I'm reassured by large parts of this extract. You will notice that this all comes from, is there anything on your phone? So there is an element of storytelling here, because this is not anything about what was on her phone. She says, and then with like the way he was talking to me, and then that's kind of when I cut him off and I stopped talking to him, and then, and the police guy jumps in because he's got a line of questioning and he realizes she's gone very far from this. She's not talking about what's on the phone, but we've got and then's, this jump in time. And so I think that she is probably there talking, but hiding the exact nuts and bolts of the conversation she had with Chris, when potentially for her the penny dropped, or the penny dropped for her that she had to get out of this situation at the very least. And that's when I when I cut him off. So she's a little bit vague about that. The police guy says, remember what you just said? We're going to get to that because that's probably a very important conversation. And then she says, so if you want to know the days, I would probably honestly start like Sunday and work your way forward. I mean, all the rest of the stuff, it's just like the small talk of like, hey, this, you know what I mean? So once again, she's putting something in a box for them to look at. Don't look at the other stuff. Just look at the days. So start at Sunday and work your way forward. So she's just trying to narrow down what they look at specifically on her phone. If you want to know the days, they didn't ask the days, they asked for specific messages. So if you want to know the days, well, I want to tell you the days is what that's saying there. I would probably honestly, so we've got this flag of honesty again. So please believe me. Please only look from Sunday forward. The rest of the stuff is just small talk. So listen, there is something on her phone she does not want them to see. We don't know what it is. I do think it might be pictures that are slightly embarrassing to her, or potentially the fact that she was seeing other guys or something like that. It could be that. Look, I spot though in that extract lots of markers of truthfulness. Her letting us in the thought process and the fact that she is not down playing the murder and the killing of Shanann. But there is an obsession with days and dates, but she's very, very keen to focus their attention on specific items on her phone and only to look at her communications within specific times. Let's hear some more from Nichol now. She's going to be asked what they talked about Saturday, the day before the murders. What did they talk about at that date? Listen and try and answer the question.
Saturday, during your dinner, what kind of conversation did you guys have?
I don't even remember. So he's been trying to like eat a little healthier than he normally does, and he's always like been in the working out since I knew him, and he like tries to eat clean, but he was trying to like step it up a little bit, and nothing like the people who do like the competitions and the shows that are all super restrictive. And it was nothing like that. It's just like day-to-day general maintenance, but it's how I eat, and it's pretty healthy. And he's been losing a lot of weight. He lost, I want to say like 13 pounds in the time that we were hanging out. And honestly, when you start eating a little bit cleaner and you start working out a little bit harder, the first couple months, especially for a man, because they lose weight faster, it's not something that's like that drastic to me, but it did stand out that it was like a little much. And so I was like, whoa, like maybe you're not eating enough macronutrients, so let me look at them. So he had been working on his MyFitnessPal app and like programming like all the stuff he eats, and I just started going through them, and I was like trying to figure out like where his ratios were. And we actually spent a lot of time doing that because he'd asked me to do it for him. Because I just was at the point where I was like, if his weight loss slows down in a few weeks, he'll be fine. And if it doesn't, then his macros are a little off. It's not like that big of a deal like in the workout community. This is like a very normal thing. But
Did you have any other outside concerns?
Me neither. Not a clue what they spoke about at that dinner. Saturday, during your dinner, what kind of conversation did you guys have? And she goes and talks and talks and talks, but not about what they spoke about, but about diet, losing weight, the weightlifting or the workout community. So things that I think are very easy for her to talk about. She's obviously got a passion for it and a knowledge for it. Very comfortable for her to talk about it. It can take the stress away here. Also potentially a bit of a resume statement that I was helping him eat clean and I eat clean as well. Look what a nice person I am. I eat well, I think about myself, and I was helping this guy do that there. But we don't know what kind of conversation did those guys have. Now, as I'm listening to that, I'm thinking that full answer deserves a really deep dive analysis, because I think there is so much in there, which I might do as a separate video at some point. Do let me know if you'd like a deep dive just into the whole question there. I'm not going to do a deep dive into it here. What I am going to say is something happened on Saturday that she does not want to talk about, the conversation that they had, because instead she goes all the way into his MyFitnessPal, etc., etc. What did they talk about? What she finishes up saying there is, and we actually spent a lot of time doing that because he'd asked me to do it for him. A lot of time doing that, not talking about that, doing that. She does not talk about what they spoke about at all, but we spent a lot of time doing that, not all the time doing that, not that's exactly what we did on Saturday. We spent a lot of time doing that, i.e. time to do other things that she is not sharing with us. So she is avoiding talking about what they spoke about on Saturday night. Why is that? Why is she avoiding that? And also the resume statement of she's in her comfort zone talking about things that she's very comfortable in. You can see it flows a hell of a lot better. I understood all of it, but it's not very relevant to what she talked about the night with the guy, Chris Watts, the night before he murdered his wife and kids there. Why is she doing that? Look, we heard the question come on there from the detective. Let's listen to her answer to that.
But
Did you have any other outside concerns, like potential drug use, alcohol use, any of that stuff that led you to go, oh, he's lost an extreme amount of weight in such a short period of time?
No, and I wouldn't call it extreme. It was just like, it was a lot. But I mean, when I first started working out, I dropped like 12 pounds in 2 weeks when I first started like hitting it hard with the diet. So the fact that he lost like that much weight, it wasn't, like I said, it was not a surprising amount. I just didn't want it to be like a sustained amount. But no, I didn't think anything weird of it, just because of like how interknitted I am with the like workout community, and I know like this is possible. But it just, the thing that concerned me about it, I guess, and it wasn't even concerned, but the thing that like kind of red lighted me like, hey, this might be carrying on, is the fact that his macros were like pretty dialed in. Like I had wrote them and he like didn't stay exactly on them, but his calorie intake was about where it needed to be, my experience anyways, for like what he was trying to achieve. And so I don't know, he didn't seem to have a problem with it. He liked where he was at with all of that.
So that was your main conversation Saturday?
That was like a big chunk while we were there, is like us actually going through, because I was like going through each item like, why are your ratios off?
Do you know where his kids or wife were that night?
On Saturday?
Yeah, his kid. Well, you know his kids are with the babysitter. Do you know where his wife is?
She's in Arizona.
Okay. How do you know that?
Because he told me.
Okay. Do you know what she's doing there?
I think she's on a business trip. He didn't even tell me right away. He actually told me, I think, like on Saturday or something. It might have been like Friday or something. I honestly don't remember. I just remember I was like really surprised where he's like, hey, like, I'm going to try to get a babysitter if you want to hang out or something like that. And I was like, why do you need a babysitter? Like, your wife's home. He's like, no, she's out of town. I was like, oh.
Okay. Is there much conversation regarding that, her on being on a trip, or the children on during those conversations?
Not really. I just asked him what time she was coming home on Sunday, and he just said really late.
Okay.
And that was it. I mean, there's nothing really to talk about with that.
Okay.
Listen, if me and the team have to listen to Nichol waffle on, then I'm afraid you guys do too. Don't worry, I'm not going to recap all of it. You ain't going to find out about his ratios. What I am going to talk about is what is pertinent inside that answer. Did you have any other outside concerns, she's asked, like potential drug use, alcohol use, any of that stuff that led you to go, hey, he's lost an extreme amount of weight in such a short period in time? Great question from the detective. And her first word in her response is no. That is what we expect. It's a yes/no question. Did you have any other outside concerns? No, I didn't. So she answers that question truthfully, no. And then, boom, she's back on the off-ramp of diet and nutrients and macronutrients and so on. And she talks for a long time about that. Look, I believe she didn't think he was on drugs or abusing alcohol, because she said no straight away. Great tip there. If a question is did you, would you, whatever, if there's a yes, no at the beginning of the answer or very near the beginning of the answer, you're getting an honest response. But we're getting a response here that waffles on and on and on and on about the workout community and so on and so on and so on. Man, the detective feels this because he kind of interrupts and goes, so was that your main conversation Saturday? And she says, that was like a big chunk while we were there. Is like actually going through this, because I was going through each line, and she again just wants to go to this place where she's really comfortable talking about diet, nutrients, workouts, etc., etc. But the beginning of the answer is instructive. That was your main conversation on Saturday. That was like a big chunk while we were there. Now, how qualified is that? Was that your main conversation on Saturday? Yes, it was. No, that's not what she says. She says that was like a big chunk. So down to her own definition of what big chunk is. Did it last for 2 minutes? And that's a big chunk of a conversation for you. Did it last for 2 hours? That could also be a big chunk. We don't know what big chunk means here, but it was like a big chunk. And while we were there, now I don't know where there is, but again, it's just qualified. So if there was an evening on Saturday and they were there for part of that evening, then it was only a big chunk and while they were there. So really what she is saying here is, we spoke about a hell of a lot more, but hey, guys, I have given you line after line after line after line of answer to what it was we spoke about. You just learned about his diet and his weight loss. The detective says, do you know where his kids or wife were that night? And she says, on Saturday. Once more, it's a question to a question. So she's been taken out of her comfort zone here. She thought she could talk for hours, and I bet she could talk for hours about this. But the detective is bringing her back to the more pertinent points. I mean, how sensitive must it be? Because what we're doing here is there's an investigation into the murder of a woman and 2 children, and she thinks this large waffle about weight loss, the workout community, how men lose weight faster than women is appropriate here. Instead of getting to the crux of the matter and helping the police find out what happened, why it happened. Do you know where his wife or kids were that night? On Saturday, she says, buying thinking time. Yeah, his kid. Well, you know his kids are with the babysitter. Did you know where his wife was? Wife is, she says, she's in Arizona. How do you know that? Because he told me. All kind of factual. Do you know what she's doing there? I think she's on a business trip. That would be the answer. I think she's on a business trip. It would be a fair answer. But then she has to go to timings again. He didn't tell me right away. He actually told me, I think, like on Saturday or something. So what we got there, he didn't tell me right away. This is a phrase that she's used quite a lot, that he didn't tell me right away. He didn't tell me about the kids right away. He didn't tell me he had a wife right away. He didn't tell me she was on a business trip right away. What is going on there? Is it the fact that actually she's really worked out that this guy's a liar, and that he's like lied to her and tells things at his own convenience? Or is it just her giving some sort of deniability? I didn't even know she was away. He didn't tell me right away. He actually told me, I think like on Saturday or something. There is an obsession, anyway, in her words, with when she knew what. You will notice. It might have been like Friday or something, so this obsession continues. You weren't asked when you found out she was away. It might have been Friday. It might have been like Friday or something. I honestly don't remember. We got that word honestly there. I just remember I was like really surprised when he's like, hey, like, I'm about to try to get a babysitter if you want to hang out or something like that. So again, it was casualness there. Hey, about to try and get a babysitter. I was really surprised. I don't remember. Look, I'm not naive. The conversation must surely have been, my wife's away this weekend. Do you want to hook up? Come on, that must have been what happened. And I was like, why do you need a babysitter when your wife's home? Strange question to ask, isn't it? It's a very strange way to word it. Can't your wife look after the kids? Isn't your wife looking after the kids? Might be a way to do it, but why do you need a babysitter when your wife's home? Interesting question to ask. I don't quite believe this. That's not really a natural way of saying it. He's like, no, she's out of town. I was like, oh, just a strange way of wording it. She's asked, okay, is there much conversation regarding her being on that trip or the children on during those conversations? She says, not really. I just asked him what time she was coming home on Sunday, and he just said really late. So was there much conversation is the question asked, and she says, not really. Which means yes. Yeah, you know, like it'd be, no, we hardly discussed it. No, not really. Means that there was some conversation there. Again, this could all be totally understandable. It's 2 people, let's be honest, they're having an affair. When the wife's away, that must be a little bit more interesting. Yeah, we've got a little bit more freedom or stuff there. I just asked him what time she was coming home on Sunday. Didn't ask where she was or how do you feel or anything like that. Just what time she was coming home on Sunday. That's a curious question to just ask, to be the only one that you ask, what time she's coming home on Sunday. Again, it could be because you wanted to make plans with the guy. And he just said really late. Now we've got just, this is all that happened. She's narrowing it down again to that specific things that she wants them to talk about. I just asked him what time she was coming home. He just said really late. And that was it. I mean, there's nothing really to talk about with that. Once more, Nicole's sticking it all in a little box, wrapping it up and giving it to the detectives as a present. But this is all you need to look at. The other stuff, the stuff that's outside this little box, please don't go and look at that. So that's the first part of looking at what Nichol has to say. What I wanted to do was have a look at what was missing, because often what is missing when someone talks is very instructive about how they feel or what they're hiding or so on. What is missing here for me from Nichol, any emotions, and I find that quite strange. The emotions must be going on quite a lot here when you find out or supposedly found out, that the guy you've been dating has murdered his wife and kids, I would expect to see maybe a bit more anger, revulsion at the act, feeling of betrayal that has happened, or an upset that your life has been derailed through someone else's actions that are no fault of yours. But there is none of that. And while she did talk about murder and killing and how shocking it was, she didn't show any empathy for the victims. Nothing about those poor kids, that poor woman, or anything like that. Empathy and emotion really missing from at least what we've seen there of a 3.5-hour police interview. So what have I got so far from Nichol? Well, listen, I do think she wants to paint the picture of an innocent platonic relationship, and that's natural. That is what anyone who's been caught having an affair really would want to do, is turn that down. I don't know why, but she really is obsessed with getting across what she knew when. I don't know why, but I can guess why, is because she knew a lot more, and she knew it a lot earlier. She was much more aware of things going on. She's really happy when she's talking about non-stressful things, and non-stressful things do not involve Chris. So she's really happy talking about gas meters or gas monitors, really happy talking about diets and workout regimes and so on. She really is trying to ensure what the police focus on and boxing it off, like I said, and giving it there. But she's not being truthful about the conversation that happened that Saturday before the murders. So should I do more? Should I do more in Nichol? I've got a feeling I really want to, because there is so much more to this police interview, because she talks about the murders and the communications that she had with Chris Watts after the murders. So I really do think we should do another episode on it. For example, now you've seen a bit more of Nichol, you could read a lot more into this, couldn't you?
You talked to him for a few hours on Sunday.
Did I? Are you asking me or are you telling me?
I'm asking you.
Oh, I was like, I don't even know. Someday, honestly, so wait a minute. That was Saturday. We're talking about Saturday. We're not talking about Sunday.
Yeah. So listen, what do you think? Do let me know in the comments. And don't forget to check out neveratruerword.com. There you can find a lot more podcasts or videos, including a look at Chris Watts pretending to be the grieving and sort of confused husband when he knew well what had happened. That's neveratruerword.com. And we'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.